So now I'd like to begin the show, assuming Kevin Hunter is on board. Is
Yep.
Kevin here this evening?
Hi.
Hi, Kevin. If we could spotlight Kevin Hunter. There we are. Hi, Kevin. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Kevin runs Touch Toggles. He calls it Barrett Hill. Before we jump into the products and things, why don't you tell us how you got into this? Where's the Barrett Hill come in? And
Well, Barrett Hill is the name of our house.
okay.
It was built in 1888, so we've occupied it for a third of its existence now, but which is about 40 some years. Um, anyway, I have bounced all over, but the common thread in my life, all the businesses I've done, but generally, the thing that has fascinated me is human interface to machines and everything. Um, I like to create environments. I was a builder for many years, and then joined forces with a close friend to run a computer company. And I did most of the human interface, the on-screen representation. At some point during that company, the web happened, and so we became a web company because we were doing it the hard way before that. And after many years, my eyes were going to become permanent rectangles, so I took off to build layouts and help people with trains. And one day, one of my customers, I was getting tired of hauling very large amounts of layout around. And one of my customers, when I was replacing an updated control panel, said, "Now that when you're done, I want to talk about adding a track right here." And so I had a 2 hour ride home in the middle of the night. And by the time I got home, I had developed touch toggles as a concept. And a mere 6 years later, it came out as a product. So, but uh, the computer work at that point was pretty far behind me, and I uh, part of developing it was trying to figure out why I shouldn't do it, and I couldn't come up with a good reason because it was a pretty neat idea. So, anyway, it's taken off, and I'm forever adding little things to the concept. So the touch toggles themselves are the control, and they involve this device, and which is the human interface part, and everything else is just to support that. It's a finger support system.
Well,
And go ahead.
one thing I want to say before we delve into the actual products, as I made a promise to myself 3 years ago when I downsized my house and had to tear down my original Rustic Buff layout, that the new Rustic Buff would use the very best of the best of anything. The premise was no compromises. And for years, I saw the little ad with the control panel all lit up, and I always thought, boy, that looks sort of Star Trek-ish and looks pretty sophisticated. So I personally pursued it um, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And before we begin, I just want to give you a personal plug. I mean, this stuff is so well engineered. It basically all snaps together with no need of understanding for electronics, uh, circuitry, even electricity. It is virtually foolproof the way it goes together. And the control panels, if you have any skills with PowerPoint, you can make something that looks right off a movie set. So with that little introduction, let me switch to our PowerPoint and then you can narrate that. Um, so,
Well, they say if you if you make something truly foolproof, the world will create a better fool. Uh,
That's probably why it works with me.
well,
So,
I I'm a good test subject too, because I when it comes to using things, I believe in percussive realignments from time to time. Um,
we'll talk our way through this, but
sure.
you're on, so go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, this is a typical very small system. This is set up for this base would support four tortoise machines. Obviously, the tortoise is pretty common, but we have bases for just about any kind of turnout motor or on-off switch, so they can be used with all kinds of accessories and track control and things like that. Um, the toggle is the little rectangle off on the far left there, and the base in the middle provides power both to the toggles and to the uh, that's a slide-on adapter. On the other side, it's an old one. The new ones look a little different. And so and you just tighten a screw down on the wires to connect them. So there's no solder anywhere in it. The toggle itself, and it's not too simple to see there, but there's little 3-pin connectors across the bottom of that. And so they just plug right in. If you're familiar with servos, we use the same cables as most little model airplane servos. Anyway, the toggles themselves are usually just stuck to the back of your graphic, whatever it is, with scissors and tape, as it says, and usually just stuck in a small picture frame. And I don't know if you made this, Tom, or if this is Tom's.
Yeah, this is just a picture frame from it literally costs like $8 or less.
Right.
Um,
Comes with glass, which works fine,
yeah,
and a piece of paper. And here there's no special accommodations. The light just shines through the paper where it's convenient. Usually you put a piece of sticky double-faced tape on the toggle and move it around behind the paper until it is where you'd like it, and you just squish it to the paper. After all the parts are on, you put it in the frame. Usually we recommend a little piece of quilt batting, little fluffy material about 1/2 inch thick, be cut behind that, and it holds the paper and all the toggles tight to the front of the picture frame, and then the back goes on just to hold everything together. Makes it really easy to get in and work on, and everybody wants to add a track, or change something or tear down their layout and start again. So all of the parts are solid state. They have no moving parts. They're easy to reuse. And as I said, everything just plugs together so you can unplug it just as easily. Um, anyway, and so
I mean,
um,
literally,
I need
if you wanted to add a spur to this, for example,
normally you just print it out again
yeah,
with
you
the
just
spur.
redraw your PowerPoint, buy another switch, tape it on the back, and
Hmm.
you're in business. I mean, but on a conventional powers, like the old-fashioned toggle switches, oh my God.
You're drilling and fitting and working around all your delicate wiring.
Yeah, it's
It's
just crazy.
not fun. Uh, this is the modern base for the tortoise machines. It's very slightly bigger, but other than that, it's just the same. You can see this has 8 output pairs across the top and 8 toggle connections at the bottom and a barrel connector. So most folks just buy a small wall wart. We have these for sale, and just plug it in and turn it on. The barrel connector makes sure you can't cross wire anything. So that's why it's the primary connector.
And
You can also see there's a little red uh,
you
thing sticking out one side, and that's a little socket on the other side. The red red thing is just a little protector for a pair of pins. And so if you have multiple bases, you can plug them into each other side by side, and it makes for a very neat and simple installation. So you only need to have one power plug for a number of bases together. Um, okay. And Tom threw together this PowerPoint, so I'm reading along with you. Wait, let me go back just a sec. Right, we have momentary toggles as well. We call them momentary anyway, they have a yellow light and they operate like a doorbell. They're not, of course, normally used for turnouts, but they're very handy if you're trying to activate an accessory or something. This is a direct base. We have relay bases, which have on-off circuits for track and power. And then we have other bases for different kinds of twin coil and various other switch machines. We have a new one just really for the old NJ machines, the antique monsters that seem to never die. They just hang around. So it has a lot of extra kick. That is just coming out. Anyway, so and lots of little tidbits that give you extra capability, simple route control, more complex route control, and so forth. Thanks.
One thing that I did, Kevin, is
Uh-huh.
across the top there. I've If you have a crossover track that has two turnouts,
Mhm.
you can actuate a single touch toggle switch that'll throw both turnouts simultaneously the correct way. I have those all over my layout, and
Right.
it keeps you from wanting to do a crossover and having one of the switches foul the locomotive because they work in unison. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have different machines have different requirements for that, but we can cover them all. So the crossovers and so forth. Um, and here's a close up of a two light toggle. This toggle would kind of move. They're two lights about 3/8 of an inch apart. And and so you'd have one light that's either green or red in two different locations. So usually this is used to indicate which track you've chosen. We do have we have it in red green. We also have this one in green and green, which showed up when people have a whole lot of controls on one uh, panel. The red kind of starts to become confusing. So if you have a huge uh, switch yard, it's easier just to follow the lights. Right. This mentions the yellow push buttons, which act like a doorbell. And we have all of these in the mini cup version, which mounts in a 1 inch hole in the fascia. And it's recessed not very far, about a 1/4 inch, but that's enough to keep it from tripping when you bump up against the fascia. So it's protected against false triggers.
How I use those mini cup touch toggles is when there's not really a justification for a control panel
Right.
on the fascia. I just drill that 1 inch hole right near the turnout, use the single LED, the one that's pictured there, and green is through and red is off, and it's very intuitive. It's
A lot of them are used for what I call the lonely crossover,
right.
way
Yeah,
out in the middle of nowhere.
yeah. And the picture above, those are the ones that would go in the back of a piece of your PowerPoint and the glass. There are two different ways, either single LED that'll light up green or red, and then the picture before is a dual LED. Um,
I think you've got more pictures further on in use. Now that's the back of your panel.
that's correct. Now, I've already changed this once, and it literally took, I want to say 5 minutes. It takes more time to draw the PowerPoint than it does to wire his system. That's how simple his system is. There's more time in the PowerPoint than anything else.
You also notice there are no numbers on any of the wires because as you plug them in, they light up and tell you exactly what you've got in your hand. So you plug it in somewhere and you go, oh, this goes over here, and you just continue on through. And it's much faster than trying to write anything down. You just whip through it very quickly.
And this is where you would put that batten behind this, and then you'd put in the
The
cardboard.
backing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that does press everything, believe it or not, very evenly against the glass.
right. We spent literally years trying to figure out the best solution. And when somebody pointed out, just using this quilt fluff, it was time to leave a dent in your forehead. You go, oh yes, of course. And
And
it's so much easier.
it really works. Yeah.
We have we actually had the first terminal to socket adapter, and that's the picture there on the left. There are now like 5 different copies, Aculites and all these others. But at the time, I I was still building layouts when I developed that, and I was doing research for the touch toggles, and said, "Well, heck, I'm making PC boards. Let's just whip this out." You can see how it fits on the tortoise there in the middle, and then we also make a powered tortoise adapter, which is shown. We used to call it a direct base, but that got very confusing. So it's now just referred to as the powered tortoise adapter, which is a little more sensible. It's very durable. It can be run from DCC, so it's very popular with, I say powered with DCC. It doesn't operate on DCC, but the fact you can draw power from the DCC line means it's really handy for modules and so forth. Yeah, well, this is that's actually an early out of production relay base we happen to pick up there, but they're not that dissimilar. We have 2 across and 4 across relay bases, and now they all have all little red and green indicators to let you see what they're doing while they operate.
So
The base,
give them an idea what you'd use a relay base for.
sure. Yeah, we call them real switch relay bases now because a lot of newer users don't know what a relay is, but it's an electromagnetic switch. So it's an actual moving contact switch, which means it doesn't care what's going through the switch. So anything up to 240 volts, um, track power, house power, up to 10 amps, which is certainly enough to light a room, whatever. But they can also handle switching, contacts. A lot of times, we have people want to start up Lionel accessories, and they're designed to have a great big push button to operate them. Well, a relay would give you those contacts from our electronic system. So they're a good interface. They're also what you would use to turn off tracks, say around a turntable, or if you wanted to have storage tracks, you could turn off the power and cut the load on your DCC system, or just street lights, things like that. Uh, 2 relays together can operate a turntable with left and right toggles. So it's very open. There's a lot of examples on the website of how they might be used. And I get questions every day that, talk about, you know, uh, that people come up with new uses for things like this. We have a servos control system, 4 across or 8 across, and that's what's on the bottom picture. All these bases are pretty much the same size. The servo base right now is in transition. There's a new design, but it's been very busy this summer. So the servo has been kind of sitting on the back shelf for a little bit, but it's a very handy system. And people that have servos sometimes use Tam Valley. There's a new one from Digitrax. And we have uh, operators that control those systems as well. So there's a lot of options when it comes to servos. Yeah, and we have a matrix controller that lets you touch one track and it lines all the switches for that track. The original controller controls up to 8 tracks and they can be daisy chained. We have a new device called the Matrix Element, and the Matrix Element is it can't do all the tricks that the larger controller 8 can do, but it allows you very quickly to set up a ladder, and there's no real setup to it. You connect them with little jumpers, one to the next, and they give you the same result with in a very simple thing that's duplicated on each of the turnouts. So there's just a little widget. We have some pictures of things like it further on, and they can be used together. So if you need a matrix control, but you need 9 tracks or 10 tracks, you can add a couple of tracks with the little add-in. The universal translator is supposed to be just that. It works with all the normal DCC decoders. They have to have a push button input for it to be able to request to flip the direction. It's also it's also universal because it had to be made to run with a reverse polarity because Digitrax uses a different polarity than everybody else. Anyway, and it also gets information back from the DCC controller so that the attached toggles are always up to date with the actual position. So if you throw the switch with a DCC command, the toggle changes color immediately. So I'm used to having a chorus of questions. So we'll get to that. uh, we have I've had a follower, it's not shown here. It's called a pulse follower. It was originally designed to either take, well, to take input from sensors of any sort, block detectors or whatever. And a block detection on one side of a switch, for example, would throw the switch to that direction. So an incoming train from one leg of a, say, reverse loop would throw the switch to let the train pass, even, when it was oncoming after going around the loop. And likewise, a sensor on the other track would throw it the other way. Along that line, the reverse follower is a newer device. It's very similar, but it pays attention to the polarity of a automatic reverser. So it means you don't need the sensors. The automatic reverser is doing that for you. And so these things plug in between the base and the toggle, and the toggle works normally until the train essentially makes a request. We have, well, I'll mention it. We have in the works a sensor to add to that would, and it's going to be really nice and easy to install and to retrofit into an existing track situation. So the the third light indicator really should be on a second page, but it lets a 2 light red green, for example, become a 3 light green red green, so that if you have the crossover that Tom mentioned, the normal indication would be a green on both main lines. and the crossover indication would be a red in the middle between the two main lines. So it gives it a much easier to read application. A lot of people use a single light and just stick it in the middle of a crossover, and if it's red, you know it's crossed over. So this is just an alternative view, but they're pretty nice. I have one here I can show you in a minute. Yes, we sell extensions. We had to have them made up to 5 feet long because very few model airplanes have a 12-foot wingspan or more. But uh, anyway, so obvious and they can actually be used for over 100 feet. But I got bored of testing, laying out 100 feet of wire to test them on. The toggles, every toggle has a voltage stabilizer inside it. So it's quite immune to noise and other kind of distractions. The Y-Track adapter is one of several small adapters we have, but it allows you to, in the case of a Y-Track adapter, it lets you point to one side of a Y and it clears the switches for that side. And so these are, it's much easier than trying to figure out which switches need to go which way. And so they're quite popular for that. We have them for a center passing sighting that the Union Pacific used quite a bit. We have, God, they elude me. Anyway, a number of these simple situations where you're just trying to do something a little more easily. And so they're all very similar. They plug between the toggle and the base, and most of them cost less than $20. So, they give you a lot for very little. Oh, we have a three-way switch controller, which I've seen systems with three-way switch controls that are $150. Ours cost 15. and you just pick which track you want. It operates the switches, and it operates them sequentially so they don't have the points clashing into each other, which is the famous thing for a multi-point three-way.
Kevin, what's that yellow? What's the differentiation there? Why is that one yellow?
The yellow is the momentary,
Okay, all
and
right.
it has a yellow light. The green is the green, and
Yeah.
we color them more for us here, so we don't get them mixed up.
What is more popular, on the right-hand side, the single LED that goes two different colors, or the
Oh, the single LED and the red green two light are by far the top two. And I do not get into the middle of that because it is a religious um, argument. So, uh, you
is
know,
the single LED more popular than the dual LED, or no?
yeah, they're about even. Um,
And do most people build a control panel or use the individual cups?
and by and large, it's especially people with a lot of them use the panels.
Yeah,
There are some, I'm a narrow gauge guy, so my switches are far apart in general, but I would still build a panel for any small industrial area or switching setup. Even if it's just a few switches, it's much easier if you can see what you're doing.
yeah, it
The,
avoids confusion. Yeah,
if everything is like on the main or off the main, two lights are kind of ridiculous. Green is clear and red is to the side.
yeah.
The Mon Power Railroad, which was a narrow gauge near us in Maryland, I looked at the entire track layout, and I almost every passing siding was a single-ended passing siding, so they would back out.
Hmm.
They didn't have, they had a few turnouts in towns for, to drop off cars, but most of their stuff was just uh, less than carload stuff dumped on the platform. So it's kind of ridiculous to have a lot of two light indicators for that. But that is actually the panel that inspired this. This is the panel that the guy said, I want to add another track. So,
That's
uh,
the panel that inspired me.
yeah. And he's chosen a very interesting thing. He had a hard time communicating this, and you can see those are double slip switches. And because he loves passenger stuff, so this is a big passenger station. And so what he said was green is horizontal and red is diagonal. Which, I mean, I did that too. I just shook my head when he said it. And then he said, "Yeah, but you can explain it. You know, you just can tell people that and they understand immediately what's going on because all of his panels have exactly that. They're horizontal or diagonals." So I couldn't fight him on it. He's also got, you can see he's got these little green kind of indications of what the options are. It never made a lot of sense to me, but you can. The point of this is that the graphic representations of what this is supposed to look like are everybody has an opinion, and so uh, this is it's kind of nice. The little orange oval in the back kind of ties everything together, so you can see it's a single switch operating. I should mention, just because we have a large audience, double slip switches scare people. And I've been asked to create an adapter for double slip switches. And what they would look like is two toggles would go in and they would cross each other and come out. There would be no electronics. There would, be made of wire. But the secret to a double slip switch is the indication is on the frog end and the points are on the point end. So you have to connect the left indicator and toggle to the right turnout motor and vice versa. And it drives people crazy until they do it. And then they say, oh, I guess that just works. So if anybody needs help with a double slip switch, I'm happy to chat. Oh, and that's the back on
Yeah.
your panel. Yeah.
So you just let the wires come out the bottom or top and
Right. And then discover what they are.
yeah, you don't even need, I mean, that's the other, you don't even need to label them. You just plug them in and
Mhm.
lights up and then you put it in the right, I mean, it's a 5 minute job. It's just amazing. Big fan of this stuff.
Well, what's next? We've got people champing at the bit, I think. Um, oh yes.
I hope that's still true, the free shipping. I caught that in the website.
Yes, it's over a certain limit. It may have to go up a little bit soon. I don't know but yes, larger orders are free shipping, and because we're small enough, if you're not from Maryland, then there's no tax on the sale.
And that's your ad in the new Tracks Modeler digital magazine, free ad that we
Ooh,
provide, created by moi.
right. So, yep.
Just a couple more slides and we'll be done here.
Yeah, this is actually a very common thing, a very small intersection, and everybody walks around now. So you have little tiny panels all sprinkled all over the place is a much more sensible way to run it. And you're actually there. You can uncouple cars and stuff without any trouble. Um, yeah, I love animation, so I'm working on animation stuff. And that's all I need to do is open a new can of free time.
Yeah. Look how slick this looks with a picture frame. I mean, it
Mhm.
literally looks like it's something out of a television show, if you ask me. Except for the screws, I should have did a better job than the wood screws. But
I've 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 designed brackets to hold this out like that at an angle.
yeah,
so far I've had a number of working models, but I obviously I want to make something that both works and looks good and is affordable. So they've been a little elusive.
I
I've
do
go ahead.
I do
Well,
want to point out that Phil Edholm pointed out that instead of having this sticking out like this, I could recess it into the void there, and then
yeah,
you would run into it. So I'm going to do that. My next panel is instead of having, it'll be the same angle, same everything, but it'll be flush with the fascia. You know,
and the only reason I don't normally talk about that is that it requires people to do way more planning.
yeah, exactly. Well, after you've run your arm into this a few times, you
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I have done some of these with magnets
yeah,
holding the
that
end,
has magnets, but it wasn't holding.
right? And there's also there's some I'm trying to French they're a form of French cleat. They're manufactured metal cleats and they have a flat tab that fits behind a little buckle. And they're really a great way to hang these things because they're very, very strong and they have a strong pull-out resistance. So, and unfortunately, with certain international trade arrangements, it's become a little hard to source them. So
I don't know if that's your discount code or not, but we talked about a
it
nominal.
is now.
I love having input on your company.
Yeah, I about a half an hour before this started, I jumped in to add the discount code, and somebody or something was banging was they were trying to break into my site,
Really?
and it had locked me out because there were too many false logins,
All
and
right.
that's
Well,
why I use 14 character passwords. But
so if you like what you see, you can get a little discount to get you
yeah,
started here. And
and I set that up for a month, so
there you go.
that'll be good for a month.
I
And
have a question. Do they make N
please,
scale? And I did not see none of your parts are composed for N scale. They're just
yeah,
HO and bigger.
no, it's I've got Z scale people using them too. Uh,
Okay,
we have a
that's all I need to
bipolar
know.
we have a bipolar base that's good for Rohan and for Kato, which is obviously the big one for N scale. And all of our we call them snap machines because they operate on a magnetic push pull. And oof, there we go. Let's not knock the confuser over. But
No, I'll reach out to you later.
sure. Well, they're just referred to as two-wire snap action bases or snap bipole bases is what they are. The way they work, just for general information, is the Atlas machines have three wires, so you activate across one wire in the center to go left and the other wire in the center to go right. Kato machines and some of the Japanese machines have a magnet and it pushes and pulls against the magnet. So one direction of DC current opens it and one direction closes it. So they look just the same, but they have two wires. And they a fortunate thing, I guess, for me is that Kato switches are hideous. So not the turnouts, but the control switches for electric control. And so I have a lot of people that are looking for an option that isn't that. Um,
Good. Are there any questions for
Yeah.
Kevin?
yeah,
Kev, this is Bob. You might want to mention too that the touch toggles are compatible with TTL logic so
oh
that you
yeah,
can run an Arduino with them.
right. If you can plug them, well, there's a shield made for Arduinos that gives you 3 pins for every pin that is plus minus and the active pin. And with that shield, you can direct plug touch toggles directly into an Arduino board with no soldering, no hardware. It's just, just works.
Mhm.
There's a white paper on the front page someplace on our site that is using touch toggles with your own electronics. They're trivial to use as just an on-off input, but it is possible to control the light color, the indication separate from the touch, and that gets more sophisticated. So give me a call if you have questions.
Kevin, this is Steve Sherrill.
Yeah.
If someone comes to you who is planning a layout and said, can you help me with the wiring? Are you available for consulting?
Well, there's a reason that I moved to a thing that I can put in a 3.5-inch bag and just mail to you. So certainly for consulting, I really did try to make it so simple that it didn't need any hands-on. But certainly I consult with people all the time. People call me up and they say, well, I've never dealt with this kind of system before. And the answer is there is no other kind of system like this. So I assume everybody's never worked on it before. And so it's mostly a matter of marrying up the right, my base with your machine. And there are a couple, we've got solutions for just about everybody. But I mean, as I said, we've got a new one that's a high-powered snap board for the old coil machines. Oh, here. Reaching over to the side, that thing. This was made by NJ, but they were labeled. This one says PFM. This is Pacific Fastmail. Had this branded for them. But these things take a wallop of juice to operate. They have a great big spring. You can see the spring here, and it rocks this. I'm trying to keep an eye on the screen, but it rocks this big rocker, which moves the piston. The piston moves the rocker, and the rocker does an end over with this spring. And it takes some oomph to get that to work. So I built kind of a hopped up version of our snap action base that will operate these just fine. Although I did have a guy said, well, mine's not working right because I use 26 gauge wire. And I was like, you can't do that. But yeah, we recommend 18 gauge wire for most of the snap bases because they deliver 2 or 3 amps of current when they're operating. It's very short, and we use electronics to shut. The switching is done with a transistor, so it's on in an instant and off again. And so even the very delicate, like the little Kato switches that don't need much power, they're fully protected. They never see enough time to warm up. Or, you can't melt the wires. You can't, have a problem like that. So that's a when you go from Atlas switches to a transistor driven and microcontroller controlled unit, it's going to protect you. Those old Atlas sliders, never could. And it'll never hum. It'll never catch fire. All these old switches become very civilized and just work. So yeah, give me a call anytime you want, Steve.
I'm all manual, but I know that I've seen you at the shows where people come up to you, and I was just wondering, I'm sure they present you with a piece of paper with a little track,
Sure.
and they say, hey, what am I going to need for this?
But,
and I see you conversing with them, and talking to them and selling your product.
I often have a hard time saying how many switches and and you need that many toggles. It's like, there are a couple of extra options that simplify or do the crossover, like Tom said. Um, and there's slight differences from one type of machine to another. These high energy machines need a little bit of extra, compared to the tortoises are very low energy, so you can just play around with them a lot.
How
But,
about the old Atlas Snaptrack switches?
Yeah, they let's see. I mean, this one's got the terminals off of it, but this is a typical base. This one is for Kato type machines. And I've taken the terminals off here, but the terminals are loose like this, and they go on these pins. They're removable so that you can mount this under your layout and then realize that you've got an impossible place to get your screwdriver. And then you can just pull the terminals off and wire this in your hand.
Wow.
So that's got the screws in it. So you can connect all your wires to this and then just push it back on the base. I've collected stuff like that that's hardware that I just love. So it ends up in the product. But there's a little capacitor there. And what happens is this charges up the capacitor and delivers the pop of electricity to the coil and then immediately turns off. And so that's why it's so safe to use. The capacitive discharge unit that's in this was developed in about 1950 for a manual version, and I've put a microcontroller on it so that you used to have to wait till the light came back on after firing it so that you could see it was ready to go again. And I said, well, that's silly. We have machines that can wait for you. So if you push two toggles on this machine at once, it'll fire one and then recharge and then fire the other. And there's only a second or so to recharge it, but you'll actually hear the switches go click, click, click as they're recharging. And so anyway, I say we do the electronics so you don't have to, it's, try to keep it as simple as possible. And so go ahead.
Any other questions for Kevin before we wind this up?
I'm sure I can be tedious with everybody.
I just want to say again how easy this stuff goes together and how well engineered it is. Elegance is achieved in engineering, not on how complicated you make things, but how simple you make things to put together doing complex tasks. And this is quite elegant in design, literally falls together one way. And
I've got just a couple other things, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Really quick. These are little things that they've shown up in the last year or so. This guy, camera's up here. This guy is you can just barely see it. It's a little adapter. There you go. And it plugs onto a Walters switch machine.
Okay.
So, and then it has two plugs up here, sets of pins up here for toggles. So you can use one or two toggles to operate a Walters machine. Their system for push buttons involves 3 drills, templates, and all kinds of funny stuff. So this will let you plug in just one of our fascia mount toggles. Let's see. The fascia mount toggles weren't very clear, but there's one of our fascia mounts. We have them with 1 light or 2 lights, but that just has the regular pigtail on it. All the toggles have a 1-foot pigtail, but then we also have extension wire, so you can go as far as you want.
What kind of price are those?
This guy, I think $11 for this. The standard toggle is at like 8 something. They also come in 4-packs, which makes them cheaper. And we have packages which are a base and the appropriate number to fill that base. That makes them even cheaper yet. So, oh, this didn't get mentioned, but this is a very popular product. I just left it in the bag. But and this is the form. When I say little widgets that plug in, this plugs into the base, and the toggles plug in here, and it's got a little foot in there so you can, and a hole so you can mount the thing, and it's sturdy. And this has extra pins up here, you can see. So this allows you to plug up to 3 toggles into one input, and they all work at the same time. So you touch any one of them and they all turn red, touch any one of them and they all turn green. So this is a real problem solver for a lot of people. If you want to have toggle, complete control panel on both sides of your layout, or both, whether it's the whole thing or just 1 or 2 switches that, are in between 2 panels and you want them to be on both panels, it's very easy to do that. Let's see. There was one. Oh, well, I'll mention it, although I don't think there are a lot of Lionel people here. But we have Lionel makes a product that makes the touch toggles go berserk. So it's great fun. Throws all the switches underneath the train. So I created, this is the mini cup version of this, and there's the camera, but there's an actual push button and 2 LEDs. The LEDs are in sockets, so they can actually be changed. You can move them around. You can put bicolor LEDs in, all this different stuff. But the little circuit board on this is a plug that just plugs into our system. So extension cable comes up to this plug, and you can actually have a completely mechanical push button board. If the touch toggles didn't work, I had to make a mechanical touch toggle. So this is our push button toggle. And but it's very flexible, and some people want the tactile characteristic of the push button. So anyway, there's that. And this can be used with all of our matrix controllers and all the little extra widgets. You can imagine that in the multi-input adapter alone, that to have them all change, you have to be able to overwrite the color on some of the toggles while they internally think they're still red, they're showing green, and vice versa. So anyway, all that's built into a little chip on this board. And anyway,
I've got one more question.
Please.
Now that we're doing the micro layouts,
Oh yeah,
which are battery powered controllers, can we use battery on your products to control them?
you can. It's
Or maybe you can make
certainly go ahead.
new product.
No,
Well,
you just need it's 12 volt in, if I recall. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you have 12 volts of battery power, it's trivial. They just work.
Some of these guys bring car batteries. Some of them,
Right.
You could do a blister pack of
And
1.5 volts.
you don't have to hit the nail on the head. So if you had 3 lithium batteries stacked, you'd have 12.5 volts or something. It will work just fine.
But you could put a battery box separate, right? With separate
Oh,
control.
sure.
Yep.
Sure.
That'd be the thing to do probably,
Yeah.
but it would
And-
work.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I carry a 9-volt battery on a pigtail so that I can actually operate, some of the gear. It's not quite enough to throw the relays because they need most of the 12 volts to operate. But they'll run a tortoise just fine.
Mhm.
And as I say, when you get into the specific applications, there may be some things work better than others. But if you wanted to turn on LED lighting, for example, you could easily do that with a direct base,
Mhm.
and that would work just out of the box.
Okay.
We sell a little barrel adapter. We use barrel connectors so that you can't just fry the board by not looking at it. But we sell a barrel adapter that connects to wires. You probably have a bunch of them sitting around, Steve, but anyway, it allows you then to wire it to any kind of wiring system.
Yeah.
I use one on mine. Well, thank you, Kevin.
Sure.
It's a terrific presentation, and hope everybody likes the idea of using touch toggles. They really are well
A
engineered.
little spooky doing this without audience participation. Usually I get cat calls. Everybody was so quiet.
Well,
Anyway,
maybe it's the summer doldrums. Well, thank you again, Kevin, and we'll have you on again, and look forward to seeing you in person at the next show you're at.
yeah, I realize that you're looking at my lab, and those are all the bins of stuff that I might put together someday up in the corner.
Well, there's always something new coming out of your workshop, so that's terrific.
Yeah, I've got it going up the walls, as they say. So